some news out of the NFL a little bit. Two guys released. You have Stephen Gilmore, who is released from Buffalo, or really was at Buffalo, now with the New England Patriots, was released from there, was on the PUP list. I mean, this has been a back and forth. They pushed money into his salary last year. He wanted a new deal. And when you're dealing with Bill, sometimes he's just not going to budge on things. He's going to assign value to what he believes you are and what position he believes you're playing. And that value is going to hold. And it's going to be what it's going to be. And I feel like this finally came to a head in Gilmore's, release request. It's thanking the craft, the fans, organization, the coaches. Never explicitly mentions Bill. So I feel like that may have soured a little bit between the two of them. But you look at potential landing spots, it's going to be interesting on what he wants. He's been compensated pretty well by New England. I think he'd be in line for a big deal this offseason. I don't know how many teams that are contenders actually have money now. And so that's the argument that he's going to have to look at within himself. How bad do I really want to win versus how much do I want to get paid? Because it's been reported he either wants, $5 million to kind of make the last half of his season, 2/3 of his season full with his contract, or potentially a longer term deal, which maybe you could push some money out and defer. But you look at, he came from Buffalo. They're a very talented team. You could potentially use some help there. Because I think anybody could use him. The Kansas City Chiefs definitely could. Their cap situation, a little tenuous. Could they bring him in? Tampa Bay, people have thrown out. They need help in the secondary mightily. They just brought in Richard Sherman. Does he land there? I don't think he's going to any of those teams for more than a couple $1 million a year, maybe even vet minimum, but you have a chance to win. Maybe the 49ers, and so there'll be other places I think that could offer him more money and potentially that longer term deal. But if you play well and you go to a winning team, your chance to make a playoff run, I think then you can get that big deal in the offseason. Now it's betting on yourself a little bit, which is, what he didn't want to do. He wanted to have his contract extended right now, or maybe even more money into this year. And so I don't know if he'd be really apt to possibly take that, but it is an option. And that's going to have to be where he decides. And, I like to do the proverbial box checking. What is important to you, the priorities in your life? Location, it's a team, it's a family situation, winning, the guys you're playing with, and you have to prioritize those. And we'll see basically what it is for Gilmore as he makes his decision here, because he's going to have a lot of suitors. Just about every team would love him. It's can they afford him and how good are they? You juxtapose that with Jaylon Smith, who was released in Dallas, their formerly star linebacker. He comes in. It's a great story, him blowing out his knee against Ohio State. He battles back, plays really well, gets the big contract. He just wasn't playing good football this year. And so Dallas cut him. They're going to pay him $7 million, the balance of his salary, but he had injury protection for, 8.5 to 9 next season. And it's pretty telling where Dallas looks at this and says, hey, we need to get him off our books. We'll eat the money this year in a year where they're competing and they're probably going to win the NFC East. Now, I don't know if they're Super Bowl contenders in Dallas, but they're probably going to make the playoffs. And so you're cutting a player who was still playing for you. But it's reports were that they didn't think he could help contribute. And they really were worried potentially of something happening in the future where they would ultimately have to pay out that money and be guaranteed and would be punitive to them against the cap next season. So I think Jaylon Smith gets picked up. Unless he's able to find a little bit of his youth, I don't think that he's going to be able to have much of a future, maybe outside this year or potentially next year in the NFL. And some of his, highest earning days, are obviously behind him.